welcome. I'm Julia Lynham. Welcome to Dancewise, coming to you from Neskaya Movement Arts Center in Franconia, New Hampshire. Dancewise is a project that's looking at how movement arts, particularly dance, can be helpful in trauma release. And I'm going to be talking with Alia Thabit, who's an Arab-American dancer, writer, and author who specializes in belly dance. Now, I know that people have ideas about what belly dance is, but Alia is going to put us straight and tell us what it really is. She's also worked in somatic experiencing, which she uses to help people find their own creativity and release. And Alia has written a book. It's called Midnight at the Crossroads, and it's all about the history and practice of belly dance. So welcome, Alia, to Dancewise.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
And it's wonderful to have you here. I think, as I said, that many people have an image of belly dance, which might not be quite what you mean when you talk about it. So would you give us an idea of what it really is?
Sure. What we've been calling belly dance here in the West is a dance. In fact, I just went to a UNESCO teleconference today that was about talking about the name, like what the heck are we going to call this? It has so many names that we kind of think of it as the dance without an actual name because it is so ubiquitous in its home countries that it's just called dance. Or, you know, Baladi, Raqs Baladi, which means the dance of the country being Egypt. It is generally regarded to have begun in Egypt. God only knows how long ago, or whatever you might believe in, how long ago. Nobody really knows that. Some scholars of the dance actually suggest that even the tomb paintings of the ancient Egyptians, the dance sequences shown could easily be belly dance sequences. So it's a big question, and it's spread from there to many areas. It is native in many areas of Southwest Asia, which includes the Levant, and you know, as you move over, you get to Turkey and Greece, and North Africa, particularly, of course, Egypt, where it began, but all along that rim there, and seeping out into many places and influenced from many places. And it is remarkably, for the dance that it is a solo improvised dance. And most of the places where it goes, they don't necessarily have a whole lot of solo improvised dances that are, you know, in that kind of genre, and it's done to improvised music. You have songs, but the musicians pride themselves on improvising within the song and never making the song the same way twice. So the dance kind of goes along with that. The most important, I mean, it has this recognizable movement vocabulary, which tends to be largely torso and infinities and circles and accents, and a lot of it is centered in the hips. It's not a lot of footwork, unlike a lot of other indigenous dances of the area that might be more footwork heavy.
So could I just ask you, in the countries that it comes from, who does these dances?
People dance at home and at parties. It is a social dance. It is a social dance that is a playful dance that is done for fun at home. You know, people are working together and, you know, making food. And up until very, very recently, it's only extremely recently that we have recorded music, and that recorded music is, you know, proliferated to be available to everyone. So in the not so distant past, everybody made their own music. So you had female orchestras in Egypt, all women orchestras.
Really?
Yeah. So everybody would make their own music. Everybody knew how to play instruments, and everybody danced. And it's just very, like, you know, hips. It's, you seeing only
You can't talk about it without doing it.
You'll see a little more later.
Yes, Alia's going to give us a little demonstration later. When you say that the music is improvised
Mm.
and the dancers are improvising, this may be a very Western kind of question. How do you know what to do?
The dancer shows what they feel from the music.
Mhm.
The dancer shows what they feel from the music. So you have this relatively modest movement vocabulary. You know, the indigenous dance has a relatively modest movement vocabulary. And the music, fair amount of it has a relatively predictable structure.
Mhm.
You know, there's a certain amount of beats per measure. There are specific rhythms. And a lot of the older dance music is very rhythmic. And then you also have, you know, there will be a melody and you might know the melody. It might be an established melody, but within the melody, the musicians are improvising, and there are solo improvisational sequences called taksim is plural. No, taksim is singular, I'm sorry, and takasim is plural. So there'll be lots of those. And you just let your body follow the music.
Oh.
And when you have performers, also the musician is following the dancer as much as the dancer is following the music. So you have these very beautiful collaborative, you know, never seen before and never seen again sequences. And Arabic music in general, the goal, I'm going to sometimes say Arabic. Ancient Egypt was, of course, not Arabic and didn't speak Arabic. It was Coptic, and they spoke Coptic. And we don't know how far back things go. But you'll hear me say Arabic sometimes, and Eastern sometimes, and Oriental sometimes, because when you talk to people of the culture and they talk about this dance in its, you know, in its sort of art mode, they will refer to it as Oriental dance. And so I do too. We don't use Oriental for people anymore. You know, that's been established. It's been a racial slur for long enough, but it still is, can refer to things, and people still do from there. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do that too. Just set the record straight on that.
So I know that you're also a somatic experiencing practitioner, and I'm just wondering if you could explain to us a little bit about what exactly that is and how it combines with belly dance, how you use the two together.
So when challenging things happen in our lives and we are unable to fight or flee, you know, which are sort of our default actions, run or fight, or, you know, talk your way through it. That's also maybe more recent, but that's a perfectly legitimate way of getting through something. But sometimes none of those are successful. So we're helpless in the face of danger, or we perceive ourselves to be helpless in the face of danger, because what I'm perceiving for me is danger, you might look at and go, it's not even really a dog, it's just a picture.
Okay.
So it's very subjective. Under normal circumstances, animals in the wild are like constantly in a threat situation, like, you know, they run or they fight, and either they get away or they're dinner. So, right? So you get away, you're like, oh, I got away. Yeah. Everything's great. And because the nervous system goes, run, fight. And then it's over. It's like, okay, everything's great now. But we have very, very different lives from animals in the wild. I mean, we're like this and this and this and the next thing and the next thing. And there's sort of always this low level of like, oh no, happening. And oh, what about that? And even really actual things happen, like you have you crash your car.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yes.
And you're like, my car. I have to pick up the children. I have to make dinner, you know, I have to get to work, or whatever it is that you were trying to do before you wreck the car. And you don't really have any time to go, it's over, I'm okay. And so when that happens, sometimes the nervous system gets stuck in this sort of on place. And we have so many kinds of things that don't really resolve by themselves in the way that something would happen in the Veld, for example, that sometimes we have lots and lots of these little things, and there'll be patterns of them, you know, like maybe you had one car wreck when you were little and it wasn't that big of a deal, and somehow you keep having them over your life, like they just things sort of repeat. Or, you know, you had a very challenging childhood and, you know, your caregivers were very challenging people, and you may end up finding more partners through your life that sort of have those same kind of patterns. So it's not so much in the thing that happened as in how we respond to things in the here and now. One of the definitions of trauma is an inability to be in the here and now. Because you're like always in the past, kind of still vibrating from what happened before, or worrying about what's going to happen next. And we're kind of, anyway, always like chewing over what happened before, or worrying about what's going to happen next. And we rarely get a chance to go, this is nice. How pleasant. It's great to be here. Everything is cool. And belly dance is all about, this is nice. Ah, how pleasant. Let's have a good time. Aren't we all having a nice time? Isn't this great? So it's very much here and now. It's very much in the moment because you are with people, usually your family and friends. The vast majority of people in the home countries do not dance professionally. and it's, you know, to be a performer is not a very high status activity. And most dancers are women, and to be a woman performer is even less of a high status activity. In fact, it's kind of a taboo thing from a religious perspective. It's not the dance, historically, it's not the dance that's the problem, it's the performing part, being in front of men who are not from their family. So that's but everybody dances. They're just not performers. In the West, we tend to think of it as a performance art rather than as a social dance. But over there, it's primarily a social dance. So here you are, you're with your friends and family, or you know, if you're a performer, you're with your guests, and your whole thing is like, hi. Hi. And belly dance has no fourth wall. You know, it's not like theater in the West where the people are there, but you're kind of going about your thing and not integrating them and not attending to them. In Oriental dance, you're like, and you go around and you visit with people. You know, it's very intimate. It's a very
I know in your book you speak about the audience being part of the whole thing and encouraging the dancers and the musicians. That sounds marvelous.
Yeah, Arabic audiences have a vested interest in the evening and in being part of that and making that happen. And Arabic music in general has an intention of like meditative entrainment and intention of reaching what is called a tarab, which is musical ecstasy. That's the general translation. T-A-A-R-A-B, tarab. Which is really pretty cool.
Is that like ecstasy?
Yeah.
I don't mean the drug. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Physical ecstasy.
Because you just get like, you know, so you get to be really present. You get to like leave all your cares away, and you just get to be in this beautiful space of enjoyment with everybody else who's there. So it's very much here and now. There's a lot of very subtle elements too. For example, the music will have rising waves and then falling waves and then rising waves and then falling waves. So it has this very sort of nervous system quality to it, where you like lift it up and then you like relax down, and then lifts and relaxes down. And in fact, the old school show, when the dance was very popular here in the West, and it had a very kind of like, it was still very authentic at that time. It hadn't really been disseminated so much and then fusionated so much as it has been now. And the old style show is like very like bright and cheerful and fast in the opening, and then it would become very moody, and then it would get kind of cheerful again, and it would be visiting, and then it would get really moody, you know, and there would be floor work.
People actually get down on the
on
floor and
and
dance.
roll around and just very moody. And then there would be those instrumental improvisations, taksim. So and those
Yes.
are very moody. Sometimes there's a rhythm, sometimes there's not. And then it would rise up and you would have this drum solo that would be like, high energy. And then you would have a high energy finale. Woo! Everybody's happy.
Sounds absolutely wonderful. And what I'm thinking is, from what you're saying, is the way that it might work is that these somatic memories, would that be the right term? Things that we're stuck in or that keep recurring for us. Belly dance in this form, which is accessible to everybody, is not a performance, is a way of releasing trauma, which is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's a vacation. And I'll take it a step further.
Okay.
Because one of the things that really changed my perspective and my, where I could go with dance was when I became introduced to dance meditation, which is essentially Sufi dance, not whirling, but dance. Because Sufism, that is from all those home countries, and that dance, the dance is the dance, and everybody dances. So it's the same movement vocabulary, it's the same music, because that's where people are from. But the intention of Sufi dance is connection to the divine. And it has this introspective focus where maybe you even close your eyes and you're looking inside your body and being with inside the body and really having a sense of, the muscles and the tendons and the body moving, and uses a lot of slow movement and breath connection to the music. And that is like another level of magnitude of healing, release potential, because it's so internally focused. And because you have already this improvisational model where you are just showing what you feel from the music, you have a lot of agency and a lot of freedom. You can move however you want. The somatic experiencing also has this quality of letting the body move as it wishes. And the Sufi dance has this explicit instruction. It's a Shatari Sufi tradition that she comes from, my teacher. Letting the body move as it wishes. So the body wants to return to regulation. When there have been traumatic events and there's like the nervous system is dysregulated, because that's what happens, the nervous system wants to return to regulation because that's where it's healthy and that's where it's happy. So it's always looking to dispel the trauma. Like there's literally, you're helpless in the face of danger, you want to fight or flee, but you can't move. So those defensive impulses remain unexpressed. They're kind of like little short circuits. And so there's like literally traumatic residue that kind of collects in the joints and collects in the body. And in somatic experiencing, for example, people will make these movements that are, they're not even noticing them as they're talking about stuff. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. Could you slow that down, please? And then, you slow that movement down. And then maybe even slow it down some more. And all of a sudden, because trauma is too much, too big, too fast. But when you slow it down, these are like ghosts of defensive impulses that come, that they've been waiting for sometimes decades, right?
Huh.
And they finally have a chance to express themselves. And as you do it slowly, the body has a chance to go, oh yeah, that. And then sometimes it's like, whoa, or just like, you'll feel like a flash of heat, or you'll feel a flash of cold, or you'll feel just like this energy moving, and things get a chance to like go out and dissipate. And you find that happening also with that Sufi model. And it's my sense, I don't have evidence for this, but it's my sense that that Sufi model is also maybe a little closer to the home model, because people tend to have a perception of this dance as being like, as having sacred qualities. This is very, very common. Even people from the West who aren't brought up with this dance feel that. And many of the performers, Eastern performers, are quite explicit about that. This dance is my religion, this is my God. So I think that's a thing. And the breathing that the Sufis do, I have finally learned basically that same breathing from an Egyptian dancer who's from a dance family, because dance was like sort of like a family lineage among performers in the past, because it's not something anybody could just get up and become a dancer. You want a dancer at your wedding, but you don't want your daughter to be one, and you don't want your son to marry one.
Just
Sorry,
listening to you.
on.
No, that's wonderful. I'm captivated here. Just listening to you describing it, I'm feeling myself just relaxing,
right?
And blissing out here. I really wish we could share this with a whole lot of people. And I'm just wondering if you've got any ideas of how we can reach out and help people become more aware of the beauty of belly dance and how it can help with trauma release.
Every little bit is something. I've started sort of integrating the somatic experiencing and the dance, and just coaching and things in general, and the classes that I build now have this stuff built into it. And I sort of feel like every little drop in the pond makes a ripple, and those ripples carry outward,
Yes.
And more people find out. And the UNESCO teleconference that I went to today, every single one of the presenters who were like lifetime dance people, Egyptian lifetime dance people, were like, this dance makes you happy. When you do this dance, it makes you happy. It is healing. It brings happiness. It is like specifically a playful dance of joy. And so I finally it kind of went ding in my head, what do you do when people say, what do you do? Like, I bring joy.
Bring joy. What a wonderful thing to do, to bring joy.
In all the things, that's what they all are for. Trauma resolution, you can finally be happy and feel joy and feel like, again. And the dance.
So if people wanted to experience this, how would they go about finding ways to get involved with belly dance?
There's belly dance everywhere. The vast majority of it, I have, in my experience, has been westernized so that it is being taught as choreographies. So you're memorizing step combinations, and sometimes people don't even use Eastern music, and the music and the dance are really evolved together. But the music is maybe foreign to someone, so they don't really understand it. And they have the performance mentality that you're going to perform, and sometimes just a whole lot of Western baggage that sits on
yes.
top of this lovely indigenous dance.
Would learning choreographies be a way in? Would it bring you in, or would it be better not to start that way?
My opinion is that it's better not to start that way. I learned from Ibrahim Farah, who was a Lebanese dancer, and we never learned any choreography, but we did learn short combinations. We learned little combinations, and I went to class a lot, and we never ever once did the same combination over again. I mean, for a while I was going 3 times a week just to see if he would repeat anything. He never repeated anything. So because we have this relatively modest movement vocabulary, which is yet incredibly elastic, because we have the quality of micro movement. So you have a little circle, right? But you could have a big circle, or you could have a tiny circle, or you could have a little decorated circle, or you could
Decorated
circle, or you could make it high and more ovally, you know, or you could take it out a little bit. Yes.
We're dancing here in our seats.
That's right.
Beautiful.
So there's so much
how long have you
agency.
been doing this dancing?
Almost 50 years.
50 years.
Almost. Next year.
Oh, it must
50
be
years.
so in your body.
Yes. And because of the way I believe that it's partly or even largely, I mean, I'm Arabic. So some people are like, oh, well, it's in your blood. But, you know, like, no, I did not grow up in a dance family. My family is Eastern Orthodox, and it was not a dance family. So I don't know that. I don't know that. Though, you know, there's probably some kind of, you know, if there's transgenerational trauma, which there seems certainly to be, then there's also, you know, some kind of transgenerational other things. I don't know. But I think it was because of the way that I was taught. And this like constantly moving resequencing of this basic movement vocabulary. And I teach like that. And that, you know, I kind of went choreography because students wanted it, but over time I've just said, you know, no, I'm not doing that. So I teach like that. I teach community college classes, 15-week class. The vast majority of the people in the class are not dancers and have not danced before and are, you know, often adults and don't have a dance background. And they can dance at the end of 15 weeks, and they dance with more comfort and ease than a lot of dancers that I see who have been dancing a very long time.
So I suppose if the point is not to be working up towards a performance, that you can relax and do whatever just comes, be as creative as possible. I think that you
can largely do that as a performer.
I think a lot of people might be a little nervous about performing.
I think that's one of the problems with the way dance is presented in the West, in that it's like pointed so hard at the performance thing. So then you get all the people who are like, ooh. Where if it was presented more as its social dance roots, as something that you do for fun and to relax and to feel happy,
yes,
then it would maybe be different. So when we talk about how people see belly dance, they see it as sort of like, you know, strippers with jingle bells on. And, you know, it's all about the male gaze, and it's all about being sexy, and it's the dance of seduction. It's like, who needs a dance to seduce somebody? You don't need a dance. Take off your shirt and, you know, that'll be enough. And when you recognize that in its home countries, it's often, you know, all the women in the household are dancing together because so many of those societies are sex segregated except at home. So that in public settings, there's often a men's party and a women's party, and all those people are dancing
just
together.
Dancing, dancing for the love of it, dancing for the joy of it.
Yes.
Yes.
You can dance for fun. We kind of like, there's not that much dancing for fun in this country anymore. Like, you used to be able to go out and there were bands all the time and you could go dancing, but the record companies have really squelched that because bands can't just play cover songs anymore. They have to like get permission to play every individual song that they play. So there's just not as much freedom.
So this is a way that you can express that freedom and your own inner creativity. hope that many people will feel that they could be inspired to dance in this way, to enjoy the fun of dancing. And I want to say thank you to you, Alia, for joining us, and to everybody who's watching. Thank you for listening and watching, and we hope to see you again in a Dancewise video.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you all of you for watching this. And hopefully you will feel inspired to maybe put on some music and just like close your eyes and let your body move how it wants, and just enjoy moving to the music and the feeling of the movement of your body with the music.
Thank you, Alia.
Pleasure.
So is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Actually, yes, there is one thing. I feel strongly that belly dance is essentially a mind-body activity on a par with all of the great and well-known mind-body activities, yoga, tai chi, you know, all of those things, martial arts, all of it. It has all of these same qualities. There's like a list of qualities that a mind-body practice has, and belly dance, I can't remember them all right now, but belly
Can
dance,
you remember a few?
it's, I think there's a breath with movement component,
Yes,
and there is a focus on the moving of the body and the consciousness of the moving of the body, and there's a whole bunch of them. But it's in my book. It's all in my book.
Okay.
I actually
Midnight at the Crossroads.
I went through all of them. I wish I had a copy of it to hold up. But it has all of those qualities, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yes.
It's fun and enjoyable, and you get to dress up and you get to wear sparkles and you get to have a good time. And, you know, who would think that this little dance that everyone is like, oh, belly dance, has all of this stuff in it? It's amazing.
And I suppose I have to ask, can men do it too?
Of course. My teacher was a man. I mean, everybody dances in the East, everybody dances. And I have heard on many, many occasions from many, many experts in this field, you know, indigenous experts, my own teacher, Ibrahim Fada, for example, and several people today at the CID teleconference, think this is a woman's dance. This is a woman's dance. It's like, okay, let's think about that for a minute. We, as women, are generally expected to do a men's dance in our everyday lives and like go, go, go. And it's best to be bold and you have to be like this, you know, and all these things that are, you know, people generally associate with as male qualities. So why not? Everybody could also do something that they could associate with, you know, that people associate with female qualities. You don't have to have, you know, you don't have to have a female body in order to sort of indulge in your egg energy, right? The egg is magnetic. The egg is here. The sperm has to run around, you know, and like go everywhere, get things and go places. The egg is like, So maybe the world would be a more pleasant place if more people got to just be like, I am the egg.
That sounds
So
wonderful.
we can all run around and be sperm. We can also all run around and be egg, no matter what body we are born with or what body we transition into. We have the option to embrace whatever energy resonates for us.
Hello, I'm joined now by Daisy McCoy, who is a former student of Alia's. She attended a session of her classes some time ago. So Daisy, I'm just wondering if you could talk to us about why you started doing belly dancing and how it worked out for you.
Well, it's been quite a while, but yeah, I started the class because of Alia invited me. And I was not a dancer. I thought, but why not? And I was probably the worst student in the class, but it didn't matter because I was there to have fun. I was not there to learn to perform. I was having a lot of back trouble. It had back trouble for many, many years. And I had heard that the exercising of the back with belly dancing was really good. So it just seemed like a good idea. So I think I did about a year. And then my life got busy and I moved on to other things. But yeah, I had a great time, and it didn't matter that I was quite stiff because of my back. So it was really hard to make the movements. But it was, I became more flexible, and I still occasionally actually do some of the exercises that we did for warm-ups. And
if you think back on those days when you were doing belly dancing, how did it feel? Did any emotions arise in you?
I felt, that's a good question. I kind of lost my tensions of the day. I was actually at the same time going through a divorce. And
that's pretty traumatic.
It was, yeah, I guess it was. Yeah, so I didn't think about, and I was teaching in a college, and things didn't always go well at the college. And it was, you didn't think about those things. You just concentrated on moving the body, moving bodies in ways that I hadn't done before, which was kind of liberating.
Sounds absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Daisy, for sharing your experience with us.
In the homelands of the dance, it's a very social event, and you just tie something around your hips, and you are ready to go.
قول يا هيمة قول. مكرمني فرد مقبل المقبل مع مين يا؟ كجلمود الصخر حطه والسيل منين يا؟ من علي 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 يا علي. وراحت عليك يا دنيا وراح زمان الشام. جدع
بس يا